Magandang gabi bayan. Ever think about how a simple mistake in paperwork filed after you win an election could come back to haunt you years later with criminal charges?
Yeah.
What happens when the very agency supposed to uphold fair elections takes, like, forever to decide a case?
Uh-huh.
Tonight, we're going deep into a Supreme Court ruling that really digs into these questions about fairness and how fast justice moves, especially in our elections.
Right.
We're talking Joseph Roble Peñas versus the Commission on Elections, or COMELEC for short.
Okay.
We want to understand, like, all the twists and turns of election overspending rules, why a speedy trial matters so much, and what this specific Supreme Court decision means for everybody, not just politicians.
Makes sense.
So to kick things off, where'd this whole thing even start?
Well, it goes all the way back to the 2010 national and local elections. We had Joseph Roble Peñas running for mayor of Digos City, Davao del Sur. He was under the Nationalist People's Coalition, the NPC.
NPC, yep.
Digos City back then had almost 94,000 registered voters.
So he wins, right? What paperwork did he have to file?
Just like every candidate, win or lose, he had to submit what we call the Statement of Contributions and Expenditures.
The SOF, right.
Exactly. Peñas filed his on June 7, 2010, saying he spent, get this, P600,000.000 on his campaign.
600,000 pesos? That's a lot. Was there a limit on how much he could spend?
Oh, yeah, there was. But here's the thing. It took over 4 years, until October 1, 2014, for the COMELEC's campaign finance unit to get in touch with Mr. Peñas. They told him the legal spending cap for mayor was P3.00 per registered voter. So with a number of voters in Digos, that limit came out to P281,403.00.
So he was way over.
Way over, more than double the allowed amount.
So how do you explain spending so much more than a low?
On October 29, 2014, Peña sent in what he called an affidavit of correction and explanation.
Interesting.
He said he accidentally lumped in two big amounts as his personal expenses, P112,924.10 for printing sample ballots, and a whopping P245,000.000 for lawyer fees.
245,000, wow.
His argument was that these were actually NPC expenses, for the party, not for him personally, so shouldn't count towards his individual limit.
Clever. Did it work?
Well, he got specific. He cited COMELEC Resolution number 8944, the one for the 2010 elections, and then Resolution number 9476, which covered the 2013 elections.
Those are pretty specific.
Oh, he went line by line, pointing out sections and rules that define what counts as party expenses, the kind that don't get added to a candidate's own limit. He even pulled out Section 102, Parts I and K, from the whole Omnibus Election Code, the big one, talking about legal fees and those sample ballots.
So if you took those amounts out, like he wanted, where would his spending land?
If those two amounts were gone, his total would have been P241,574.01, well under that P281,403.00 cap.
So he's saying, hey, it wasn't for me, it was for the whole party, but why was he paying for the party stuff in the first place?
Yeah, good question. He explained that at the time he was the NPC city chairman. That position, he claimed, allowed him to pay for some party expenses. Like those sample ballots, they had all the NPC candidates in Digos, not just him, and the legal stuff, that was for issues affecting everyone running under the NPC banner.
Sounds plausible. So what'd COMELEC say to all this?
Well, even with that affidavit, the COMELEC's campaign finance unit, they went ahead and filed a formal complaint against Peñas.
Really?
Yep, November 6, 2014, that's what had happened. They accused him of election overspending, which broke Section 100 and Section 262 of the Omnibus Election Code, the one changed by Republic Act 7166.
So they're going after him. Did Peñas get a chance to fight back?
Oh, yeah, totally. February 9, 2015, he filed his counter-affidavit, basically doubled down on his argument, saying those sample ballot and lawyer costs, they were legit NPC expenses, nothing to do with his own campaign spending.
So up to the big leagues it goes. COMELEC Bank, they're top dogs. What'd they decide?
COMELEC Bank on November 5, 2018, they put out resolution number 180665.
4 years later? Okay.
They said there was probable cause to charge Peñas with overspending. Didn't buy his explanation, thought the correction was too convenient, too little, too late. They figured a full-blown trial was needed to really get to the bottom of it.
Probable cause. That's not good. Did Peñas just give up at that point?
Not a chance. December 13, 2018, he filed for a motion for reconsideration, asking them to look at it again.
Give me another shot.
Exactly. But that motion was denied on December 9, 2020 through resolution number 20-012133.
2 more years. So to the Supreme Court he goes. What exact legal question did he put before them?
The core issue Peñas raised was whether COMELEC went too far, what legally we call grave abuse of discretion, when they pinned that probable cause on him.
Grave abuse? That's strong language.
It is. His point was, look at my explanations about the money, look at how long COMELEC dragged this out, it's just not right.
This is where it gets juicy. What'd the Supreme say?
They sided with Peñas, granted his petition.
No kidding, they overturned Comèlec's en banc?
They sure did. Now, they did acknowledge Peñas was about 7 days late with his filing.
7 days? They couldn't cut him some slack.
Well, they actually did. They decided to bend their own rules a bit, said it was in the interest of substantial justice, especially since they agreed that COMELEC messed up big time. Clarified that the fresh period rule for appeals doesn't quite work the same for petitions like this one landing at the Supreme Court.
So they let the late filing slide. What was the main reason they went against COMELEC?
Supreme Court basically said COMELEC took way too long, called it an inordinate and oppressive delay in that preliminary investigation. They stressed that the right to a speedy trial that's in our Constitution, it doesn't just apply to trials in courtrooms, it applies to any investigation by a body like COMELEC.
So everyone has that right?
Everyone.
Didn't they back that up with a previous case?
You bet. They brought up Kagan versus Sandigan-Bayan. That one set the guidelines for figuring out if a delay is too long. Using those guidelines, they pointed out the turbo complaint against Peñas was way back in 2014, but COMELEC didn't say probable cause until 2018, 4 years later. Then, took another 2 years, till 2020, for his reconsideration be rejected.
6 years on a spending limit issue seems excessive.
They thought so too. Supreme Court highlighted that this timeline blew past COMELEC's own rules. Those rules say investigations should wrap up 20 days after the counter-affidavit, then a decision within 5 days.
Their own rule book, yike. Did COMELEC have a good excuse for taking so long?
They tried. They said those national elections in 2016 and 2019 kept them busy.
Oh, come on.
Supreme Court wasn't buying it. They said the elections being closed should have made them move faster, not slower. Get things cleared up, especially when someone's already in office, maybe running again.
Makes sense. Wouldn't want that hanging over their head.
Right. Plus, the court pointed out this case wasn't rocket science. Did he go over the limit or not? That's it. No crazy legal arguments, no mountains of evidence.
And they considered how this whole thing affected Peñas personally.
Oh yeah, big time. They acknowledged 6 years of this caused Peñas harm, mental stress, possible damage to his reputation as a public official. Plus, all that time makes it harder to build a defense, evidence might be gone, people's memories fade.
True, true. Did the court think Peñas should have been more proactive, pushing COMELEC along?
Nope. They cited cases like Coscowilla versus Sandigan-Bayan, which say people accused in investigations, they don't have to keep pounding the investigators. That's COMELEC's job. Move things along fairly and quickly. Plus, back then, COMELEC rules forbade any dismiss this case motions during the early stages. So Peñas couldn't even try that route until the Supreme Court stepped in. They said his petition, filed after that, was right on time.
So what was the final verdict from the highest court in the land?
They tossed out COMELEC's probable cause decisions, resolution number 18-0665 from November 5, 2018, and number 20-0121-33 from December 9, 2020. Said straight up those were grave abuse of discretion, that they ordered the whole overspending complaint against Joseph Roble Peñas dismissed. Decision was written by Justice Lazaro Javier. Everyone on the court agreed. Case is officially Joseph Roble Peñas vs. Commission on Elections, GR Nay. UDK-16915 decided February 15, 2022.
So, big picture time, what's the lesson here for our listeners?
I think it shows how important it is to balance two things. We got to enforce election rules, that keeps things honest, but we also got to protect everyone's right to a fair and speedy trial. Even with elections, which everyone gets worked up about, you can't ignore due process. Supreme Court's telling us that if investigations drag on for no good reason, that can be a huge problem, maybe even get the whole case thrown out.
Lots to think about, huh? This brings up a big question for our listeners. What does this case tell you about that balance between enforcing election laws and ensuring a fair and speedy trial for anyone accused?
Love to hear your thoughts on that.
And what parts of this deep dive really hit home for you?
Share those too.
Let's recap some of the key legal ideas the Supreme Court focused on, just to make sure we're all on the same page.
Good idea. First up, the right to speedy disposition of cases. Like we said, that's straight from the Constitution. It covers every type of legal proceeding, not just courtroom trials, COMELEC included. The point is to protect everyone from delays that are just unfair and drag things out way too long.
What exactly counts as inordinate delay in legal terms?
It means a delay that's unreasonable, can't be justified. The court made it clear you can't just count days on a calendar. You got to look at the whole picture, how complex the case is, what evidence is involved, and what reasons they give for the delay. And here's the kicker. If the delay goes past a reasonable point, the burden shifts. The investigator's got to prove why it took so long.
We heard a lot about grave abuse of discretion regarding what COMELEC did. What's that mean in a legal sense?
Grave abuse of discretion is when a court or agency, like COMELEC, uses its power so carelessly or unfairly that it's like they don't even have the authority to do what they're doing. It's ignoring the law, making decisions that are so obviously wrong, it makes you think they're doing it on purpose.
This has been eye-opening, really diving deep into this Supreme Court case. Thanks for explaining it all.
My pleasure. Important to remember that while we need accountability, it can't come at the expense of fairness and a quick resolution.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And to our listeners, if you found this deep dive into the Joseph Roble Peñas versus the Commission on Elections case helpful and you're hungry for more insights like this, hit that subscribe button. We're here to unpack these complex issues with you. Always more to learn.
That's right.